If you use Microsoft Purview's DLP engine for any amount of time, one of the things you'll quickly discover is that the built-in reporting is not as in-depth as we wanted to see it. Yeah, you can see high-level stats like this one and kind of graph, hey, hits over time with it. We can use Data Explorer to see kind of the underlying data, but it really doesn't give us a lot of analysis on what's going on with our DLP engine, what are the biggest risks, or what the data pieces that are causing those hits are. So what we need to do to fix that is we need to set up and export our own data reports so that we can do a more in-depth analysis of that. So today, that's what I'm going to do. Hey, I'm Doug. This is Doug Does Tech. Today we're going to focus on PowerBi reports from our DLP data. I'm going to take you through the process of exporting your data, and we're going to build this report right here. So that being said, let's get into it and let's design our reports. All right, so here we are in Microsoft Purview, and let's get started with what we need to get out of the solution to build out our advanced reporting. So to do this, how we're really going to start with it, and kind of the easiest way to get up and running is under Data Classifications, Activity Explorer. Activity Explorer is going to be a lot of different data in your organization. You know, this could be sensitivity labels, this could be DLP hits, it could be, just changes to files on endpoints. But what we're going to focus on today is under activity, we're going to focus on our DLP rule matches as the activity that we're going to focus on. In this tenant, you can see it's just very minimalistic, just the DLP rule match. Depending on what tenant you're in, you might see, or the other features you have enabled, you might see just an absolute ton of data. So let's focus on not everything. Let's just focus on this DLP rule match to start. Down here, once you start that filter, you'll see all of the other data associated with it. So this should be every DLP hit in here. And we can export this data right now and start building our reports. However, what you should do is look at this and say, hey, what about this other information do we want to pull in? Do we want to pull in that there is US bank accounts and some of the details of those reports? And we do. We want to see this data because we want to slice and dice different ways than just, hey, high level hits on the data. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to go to this customize column option, and then we can start adding in any of those other fields and make it available for reporting. So let's add in a couple of good things that I think you should focus on. So we'll add in sensitive info types, counts, and then the metadata. We'll add in the mode, the action, and because I am focused on email alerts and reports, I'm going to add in all of this type of stuff here. Subject, sender, recipient. That way, if I want to do some of those kind of solutions, I can see it. If you were focusing on endpoint DLP, you might want to add in a couple of these other details. Anything else I want to add in here? I think that's probably a good start. I might add in some other items later, and you can just continuously update and add in all of this stuff in here. Let's add sensitivity label. I don't think I have any data that's in here that's sensitive, but we'll see if, and see how you can slice and remove stuff that you maybe not needed. Okay, let's do that, and yeah, we'll add a couple more, and we'll call it good. So once you have these other columns in here, now you can start exporting that data into something else. I'm going to update this filter here as well because I want to see, a full, as much data as I can, and I want to build this report out for kind of that in-depth analysis. All right, so there we go. Now I got my columns added in. I can see all of this, and to export, we're simply going to come in here and just export that data. So let's let that run, and I'll come back once it's downloaded. All right, so that took about 5 minutes to download, and let's go ahead and get started with parsing and bringing that data into Power BI. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to come into this and hit transform, and this is the data set that we downloaded previously, and let's go ahead and ingest that into the solution and take a look at it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit transform on this real quick, and that way we can customize what is brought into our solution. So there we go. That is kind of the data items. And now we have every one of those Activity Explorer items in here and ready to take advantage of. You'll notice there is some columns that don't have any data in them, and you'll see, hey, yeah, there's just, all of them are empty, and you'll see this little gray bar here. If, it'll say kind of what percentage is filled and what kind of percentage is not. So that's helpful view of this. One of the other things that you'll notice in this is that we have this sensitive data metadata column, and it is just a lot of JSON data in here that, isn't really super usable at this point. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and parse that data so that we can split these columns out into more usable areas. So let's go ahead and do that. And you'll see some of these records are, exported out. And so now we can use them. I'm going to go ahead and then take it and split them into columns that I want to be able to use and take advantage of. You'll see there are some errors on this export. And so you might need to do some cleanup of some of that data that exports and remove that. I'm just going to go ahead and remove those errors here to kind of make this video a little simpler for getting started with it. Okay. Next thing I really want to do is I'm going to convert this happen column into a date column. Actually, yeah, we're going to just go ahead and rename it. And I'm going to actually go ahead and duplicate this one as well, because I might eventually want to take advantage of the time frame that it's in, but at this point I don't. I just really want to focus on the date one. So let's go ahead and where is the duplicate button? It's under right click and duplicate column. And we'll just leave that as date copy. And then go back to date. And I'm going to change the data type to just be a date column. That way I can really focus on the date that happens and not really the exact minutes. That's a little too in-depth for me on this one. Other data pieces that we need to clean up in here is, you'll notice when I just converted these data components, it's using a different value than what I want. And I want to use this as some of the analysis component. So what I need to do is we need to switch this from being text or numbers, kind of string kind of values, to let's switch it to whole number in this case, right? And so we're going to explicitly tell what the solution, what type of data is in here. Okay, other things that we need to clean up, unique account, there we go, let's add in that one. Switch it to whole number. And I think that's good. I think that should be exactly what we need for this. So once you're done here, we're going to come back in and hit close and apply, and that will bring in our data pieces in here. I had an extra one from testing earlier. So let's go ahead and close and apply changes. And while we wait for that to happen, I'm going to pause the video. All right, so now that that's done, we can start building our reports. All of the data components that we built are going to be in this column over here on the right-hand side. And this is where we're gonna start seeing kind of all of the different data pieces. So if I expand this out, now we can see I have all of the different date components that I was showing you earlier and what you can take advantage of. So let's go ahead and rebuild out this previous report in here, and then we'll take this, once we get this up and running, we'll take it and add in some other things to make it a little better user experience for those that are going to be analyzing it. So let's go ahead and add this date column in here, and we'll just drag it over and start building out this report. Okay, so what you'll notice is it just kind of grabs the data and throws it in and then tries to build it out kind of however it thinks that you might want it. So in this case, I'm going to switch it to a stacked area chart. And then I want to add in the y-axis, and I'm going to use activity and specifically count of it. You'll notice in here, it is going to show like kind of all this data components in kind of this view here. And it will start, basically causing maybe to view it incorrectly. You can try messing with it in a couple different ways, but probably the easiest way to do it is to actually come in and drill down on the report essentially into this kind of view here until you get all of this data. One of the things you'll notice also from this report is it's, basically putting into this kind of funny view here. So it's is basically minimizing and showing kind of 0 to 16 counts of this data. So we need to customize this to get it kind of more into the standard view where it's, 0 is, 16 is not the baseline here. So to do that, what we need to do is switch over to format our visualization. And we really want to focus on the the Y column on this, and we're going to set the minimum value to it. Instead of auto, we're just going to set it to 0. All right, there we go. That looks a little bit better. That looks like there's actually data happening in this, and we can take advantage of it. The other thing you'll notice from this is there's no peaks and valleys. If we look at our previous report on this data, you'll notice, hey, yeah, there is some days where no DLP hits occur, but in this one, that's not happening. What's happening is more akin to the Activity Explorer view, where it's only showing data that it is providing. It's not actually showing, the missed days. So here you can see on November 4th, there was 16 hits, and it jumps to November 7th, and there was 16 hits of DLP, and in between, it's not showing that, there is no data components. So what we need to do to fix that is we need to actually create a measure for the solution so that we can use that. So over here on the right, you just right click and then hit new measure, and then we can add in basically a custom metric that we're going to use. It's kind of weird. Power BI does this, it's just the nature of the beast of using Power BI. So I have one pre-written that I'm going to pull in. Essentially, I'm going to call this measure total incidence, right? And so this will be the measure of all of this. And basically, I'm putting into this, basically to count blanks so that blanks show in this solution. You'll notice in here, I have the wrong name of this. This is from a previous tested data set. And you just need to modify this to whatever name you brought in. And so in my case, it's Microsoft Purview Activity. And we'll go ahead and delete this out. And that's the name of the Excel file. And again, we're going to fix this one in here so that it looks just like that. And go and hit OK. So now that that measure is in here, we need to convert our chart to use this component instead of the count of activity. So down here in measure, in the view, we're just going to go ahead and swap that out so that we can get that view. And this, of course, causes some other issues, such as, now it's showing the entire year of data versus we only have a month worth of Excel spreadsheet in here. So to fix that, let's go back into this visualization area, and we're going to adjust the range that's shown here. And so we're going to pull in date and start the chart on the earliest date in here. And then we're going to end the chart on the latest date on here. So go ahead and open that up again. Okay. All right. So there we go. Now we have that kind of chart. And now we're starting to match this kind of view that we had previously in our old reports. We're going to see the peaks and the valleys. We're going to see all of this. But let's add in a little bit of other data to this to make it a little easier for us to analyze kind of what's going on. So in this legend column, I'm going to look at the different rules. So let's go ahead and add that in. And now it's going to split that chart into the different DLP rules that we have going on. I have 2 policies in my organization, and they hit on roughly the same amount of data. And so you can see here, I have a high volume rule, the low volume rule, and then I have my second policy, which is again a high volume and a low volume policy. And so now we have kind of this chart in here, and so we can start making sense of this. If you see these, if you look at the data underlying this, you'll notice a couple things. I have double matches happening across the board for most of this data pieces. And because of that, I'm gonna go ahead and remove one of these different policies so that I'm not showing double hits or counting things twice in my organization. So I'm gonna add in a filter here down, not actually that one. So we're gonna add in policy down to a full filter for the entire chart. And I'm going to focus on the monitor only policy, or actually let's do the exchange DLP policy because there's more hits with that one. It'll maybe be the active policy. All right, so there we go. Now we have this separated out and we're in a good spot. We're now showing double hits. We got the peaks and valleys, and let's add in a couple of other things to make this a little easier for us to work with, kind of present the data in a little bit better light, right? So we just kind of matched our experience now. So let's go ahead and make it a better experience. So to do that, I'm going to add in a couple of different charts here. So I really like the scorecard chart or kind of the high level like dashboard chart on here. And I like adding these in just to say, hey, this is how we're doing on incidents. So, total incidents, I'm going to add in that component. And we're going to duplicate it and add in a filter on this. So again, I like this policy. I want to separate these high volume alerts or high volume incidents versus low volume incidents. So let's go ahead and add in that to this visual filter. So let's go ahead and add that in. And we're going to do the high volume alerts on this one and call it 88. Duplicate it again. And we'll add in this one again and focus on the low volume. So now we have a nice little scorecard on kind of what's going on with this data pieces and kind of what, we can take advantage of here, right? And so it's, added in. Let's add in a couple of other components to make this a little even nicer. So I'm going to also grab in and I want to focus on, I think, the differences between the different sensitive info types. So I like this chart here this tree map to kind of analyze the different data types that are being a part of this policy, right? So right now in this policy, we're just looking at incidents over time. Well, what's the underlying kind of components of this? So let's go ahead and add in sensitive info type. So let's go ahead and add in that to this category, and let's add in, again, we'll do it based on total incidents. All right. And then there we can see how many incidents are US bank accounts, how many are ABA routing numbers, how many are US Social Security numbers. And so we have kind of that component in here. You might look at this and say, hey, this is incidents. If you wanted to say like how much actual content is being sent over, well, that's where that metadata column is. So this column in here that we were looking at previously of this sensitive info type, low, medium, high, this is the match on this. So for you, you might say, hey, I don't really want to see how many incidents related to Social Security number or ABA routing numbers or this. I want to see how much actual underlying data was sent in each of those things. You can do that by switching it over to this unique count area instead. And so you can see it changes this report drastically when we're focused on, okay, 1,056 bank account numbers were sent, 2,061 ABA routing numbers were sent, and 14 Social Security numbers. So very different kind of view of this data depending on what you choose to show in your items. I want to add in this data label components because I just want to make it high level view of kind of what's going on with it, and at least show some of those hits in here. Let's change it. I don't like that view. And so it does require, a little bit of playing with the visuals to get it exactly how you want. That's kind of the nature of the beast. Like with Power BI, there is a little bit of adjustment you can do, a lot of adjustments you can do to make it and clean it up. Like, hey, this is maybe not a good title here. So if I want to fix that, I can come into this and, go into general title and say, sit, right? So we can adjust that, name and make it a little cleaner. And that's probably something you want to do on each of these before you clean this up, change the names, make it a little bit easier to read for anybody that might just be getting the data and not, having it available. One of the other things you'll notice about this is everything is relational in Power BI. So as I click on this US bank account data, it automatically pivots and adjusts to, okay, well, high volume alert is happening with all of this, or this one is, pivoting and adjusting to this. So this is some of the power of Power BI, is lets you come in and say, oh yeah, this is automatically relational. Okay, so that's there. Let's go ahead and add in a couple of other data types so we can help analyze kind of what's going on with this. So one of the things I might want to focus on is, well, who is actually causing these incidents? So I'm going to add in email, and let's add in total incidents to this so we can see who is the problem person that's sending this. I'm going to put this down here in the bottom right. And I like this. I want to make this chart a little bigger. All right, I'm gonna also add in a breakout of sit count maybe. So let's add in a donut chart, and we'll do how much data is in each of these categories. So we'll do add low, medium, high. So this is, how much accuracy was each of these data components, right? So this row here is how many match the medium accuracy, the low accuracy, medium accuracy, and high accuracy DLP policy there. So that's good. Again, I'm going to adjust this name before I, allow it to kind of go through. For right now, I'm just going to hide it. And finally, a couple of things that you might want to do to clean this up, make it a little bit more user-friendly, is add some filters to this. So let's go ahead and add this date filter, and we'll make a slicer for it and kind of present this data so that we can, kind of filter it out. One of the annoying things is this data kind of randomly picks kind of the view that you want to do it on. So if you come to this, you can kind of switch things to a drop-down list. You can switch it to a list view. And my favorite view of the date slicer is, I believe, where did they move it to? So this is the fun of Power BI, is like I always feel like I do it wrong. There we go. That's what I wanted it to see. So we'll do relative date. No. Between. That's what I wanted to see. So yeah, so it requires a little bit of tweaking and playing around with stuff. And you can kind of see, yes, we can add these filters. We can also add a filter on the different, rules. And so any of these kind of items that we can see in here, we can convert to a filterable area. And again, we can, change the slicer to be different things. So like, I also like using the kind of the chiclet slicer kind of components of this, of like, yeah, I want to just focus on just these things and this, and it just gives your report viewer, kind of different view of this. So that is, a little bit of a better report. And you can see, you can spend a lot of time on here changing things, making it different for depending on your needs, and customizing kind of the overall report that you're presenting and using this. I've made reports, with 3 other pages in here for analysis, and it can be, really helpful kind of view of this data. So let's go ahead and hit save on this. So now that we have this saved, we can go ahead and publish this out to our workspace so that we can take advantage of it via Power BI, the web view. And so here you can see I have only 2 workspaces available. I'm going to publish this to my personal workspace here. And once that's done, then we can start viewing it in the web version. So let me go ahead and open that up while it publishes, and we'll take a look here. All right, so here in Power BI, we can now go to my workspace and start looking at the data report, right? So now we can open this up in the web view and again, view this same type of data. And really, this is where I'm going to go ahead and, start sharing this out to other people to help with the analysis of it. I feel pretty good about this. I think this is a helpful view of kind of our DLP areas. We got the filterable windows here where we can scope it to the dates. We got, different items, we got different views. And so in here, now that we have this deployed out, we can make sharing links and share this out to people in our org. So I can come into this and say, you know what, who needs to have this? Good old Jeff Leatherman, and start typing Jeff's account out and send it out to him, right? And so we can do that now that we have this data in here. Jeff doesn't need to be a compliance administrator to get access to this now. We just need to be able to share directly this report to him and make it available. We can also do some fun things like obviously, exporting it. You can also do a kind of a web view link of this, depending on if you have those features available for your end users. I actually believe I disabled web view. Oh, no, there it is. So, I can take this and, publish this to web and make this link available for anybody in the world, right? So I can now come in and, open this up, copy it, and basically anybody that gets this link now can access this data set in here. And so that's a cool option to make available. Obviously there is security concerns with Power BI and sharing some of this data out. I showed you previously that, there was metadata underlying that the end user could see in that. So it's, in this report view, yeah, maybe the end user isn't able to see kind of the underlying data set of what's going on. But with Power BI reports, if I pull up, Jeff Leatherman's account, I actually can come in and, show as a table and start really drilling into kind of all of this different information. People that you share a lot of this stuff to, they can export some of the underlying data and, get, really into the, the data sets. So you want to be careful with your sharing, kind of what you make publicly exposed. One of the cleanup processes I would probably do is, as I'm importing that data, if I don't need it, if I have concerns about, specifically, hey, what data is actually in here on this metadata, I might delete columns before I ever publish it out. That way, if someone got a hold of the data set underneath it or said, hey, I want to customize this to my own needs, they wouldn't have that underlying data set to use. So there you go. I hope this helps someone else out there that is looking to take their DLP reporting and take it to the next level, help with slice and dice the data, kind of analyze what's going on. There's a lot of customizations you can do beyond what we did, but this is meant to at least get you started with using Power BI and the kind of underlying data sets. If you have questions, of course, please reach out. Love to help and assist with anything that you need. And if there's other requests for, hey, how do you do something in Microsoft Purview, let me know. I love trying to help other people out there make their lives better. So take care all and good luck.